Soulful shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some soulful shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this beat myself, so hear me. I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. This some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the thoughts and harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10.
Yes, what's going on, peeps, man? We are back in the building, guys. As always, man, please make sure you're hitting that like button, sharing and subscribing to the damn channel, man. And today we are going to take a look at Nottingham Forest midfielder, and that is Morgan Gibbs-White. Now, he's a player who I won't lie, and big up Jerry, because he had been talking about him for a couple of seasons now, like more so obviously once he moved to Nottingham Forest, formerly of Wolves. Been on loan. I think he went to Sheffield United as well, won their Young Player of the Year and stuff like that. Been a crazy journey for him, man. Been a crazy journey for him. He was touted, I remember when he was playing when he was at Wolves, coming through at Wolves, he was touted as, the next kind of, I wouldn't say like the next big thing, but he was in that kind of class of individuals at the time, and you thought, okay, he's going to really kick on from here. Again, if you play Football Manager, you'll definitely know about Morgan Gibbs-White, man. Football Manager strikes again, right? But listen, Morgan Gibbs-White, I think this season especially, he really has kicked on, if I'm being super honest with you. In terms of just as a player, obviously got his England debut and stuff like that. But yeah, just as a player in general, obviously, I would say an attacking midfielder, but I like to actually think he's more of an 8, if I'm being totally honest with you. Obviously, maybe in terms of formation and tactics wise, yeah, it might look like he's playing attacking midfield, but this is a guy who gets up and down the pitch. He's good on the ball, fantastic off of the ball, especially in the system that Nuno wants to kind of play with Nottingham Forest. And I think he's almost like their perfect player to kind of have in there, because he's good at both facets of the game, both defensively and in the attacking sense. He can link up really well with the striker, obviously Chris Wood. Defensively, he seems to always be switched on. He's always willing to get back. He's always willing to do the hard yards. And again, obviously, as I say, in that system that Nuno kind of wants to play, you kind of need to be, Nuno's system is very press oriented, if it's probably the best way to kind of say it. So yeah, man, I think he's definitely a player who fits that kind of system really, really well. And I think, doing this video, I was sitting there thinking, I was like, right, you know what, just looking at him in general, is it the fact that we underrated him? Is he underestimated? Unsung hero? Obviously, Nottingham Forest fans, you guys tell me. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how you see him, but from the outside looking in, I look at him and think, right, you know what? I'm a tough cookie to crack. Do you know what I mean? I don't just give out, all of these kind of, these kind of big words and give out these tags to individuals unless they've got really a body of work. Of course, some players you can just see it straight away, immediately, and stuff like that. But he wasn't, for me, one of those. It's always about, can you build upon, the reasons as to why people thought you were really, really good. And I feel at this current moment in time that he's kind of done that. He's been able to show a level of consistency. And that's all I ever ask for when we talk about rating players, not rating players and stuff like that. It's all well and good. You know what I mean? You can look fantastic for one season. You can, listen, players play out their skin. We remember Michu. Do you know what I mean? We remember Michu, everyone looking at Michu as if he was the best thing since sliced bread. But then you're not able to really continue that. And it's like, or not even necessarily continue that. Like some people, you start off with a base, like there's like a base level for you. So you build upon that, even if it's just let's say as a striker, as an example, right? You might score 10 goals one season, then the next season you might score 13, 14 goals, then the next season after that you might score 18 to 20 goals. We can see that there's something building as a midfielder, as an example. Obviously, depending on your role within that team, it might be goals, it might be assists, it might be the influence that you have on games. And I think with him, it's kind of all the above. It's the goals, it's the assists, it's the influence he seems to have on the games, captaining the side and stuff like that. So yeah, man, for me, he's shown that level of consistency for the last 3 seasons. Obviously, this being, the third with Nottingham Forest, and yeah, man, I feel like he deserves his flowers, at this current, moment in time, man. Obviously, looking at him, for this season, you can see obviously, look, he's got 5 goals and 4 assists in the Premier League so far. You can see the kind of areas that he does occupy, kind of over on that left-hand side mostly, but again, he's everywhere. That's what I like the most about him, is that he isn't someone who's going to shirk the defensive side of the game. And it's funny because as Liverpool fans, we talk about players like Szoboszlai, and we kind of criticize the fact that he does that defensive side of the game, but doesn't maybe necessarily get the goals, or when he's in those kind of positions. But I mean, 5 goals is great. Well, I say great, it's good for someone in his kind of position for the team that he plays for. Again, without being disrespectful to Nottingham Forest, but 5 goals and 4 assists is pretty decent, right? 9 GA kind of return, especially when you got Woods, who's obviously scoring quite a lot of the goals, and as a team they collectively get the assist, and they can spread out the goals in other areas. But it's more his influence on the game, and I feel like sometimes those things are not always easy to kind of see. You know what I mean? Like, there's not always a metric. There's not a metric really, in my opinion, for influence. Yes, you can look at, I don't know, and we'll take a look at the stats in a bit, but you can look at like progressive carries. You can look at, I don't know, passing, whatever. You can look at certain things and maybe gain a picture, so to speak. But I sometimes feel, unless you're actually watching the player, you won't understand the influence that this guy has on the team. I'm talking, sometimes it's all about the way that they press. The things that they are, that they're necessarily doing. And I feel that is the case with someone like Morgan Gibbs-White. It's more that influence that he seems to have on kind of and I would say newish kind of team in terms of some of the players that they've got there. This is a team in which, since they came to the back to the Premier League, under Steve Cooper, and it's been a little bit, a bit crazy, obviously battling relegation the last couple of seasons, but it's almost like they've been building to a point, even with and this is why I respect Nottingham Forest, because it's like you get to this point where it's like now we're in this position, we feel we deserve to actually be here, we feel that we're operating at a level that deserves to be here, so we're going to act like it, and we're going to play like it. And again, listen, things have to align. Managers have to, be able to come in, implement whatever it is that they're trying to do. And I think Nuno's done that, and especially with Morgan Gibbs-White. You can see last season, even here, got himself 6 goals in all comps, 10 assists. 10 assists in the Premier League. That's a lot of assists to be able to get. 37, only missed 1 game. So again, he's showing his reliability, and you can availability, should I say. And you can see again, heat map relatively the same, a bit more spread out in terms of both the right and the left-hand side, but again, absolutely everywhere. And then again, you can see here 5 goals and 8 assists. Again, same kind of positions that he's kind of taking up for Nottingham Forest are the reasons as to why I almost feel they're almost in this position at this current moment in time. And again, it does go back to quite a lot of what Nuno is necessarily asking from his players. If I'm being totally honest with you, it's the pressing, even the pressing from the front, the build-up play from the back and things like that. I think that for me is always going to be kind of a major thing, if I'm being totally honest with you. When we're looking at the way that Nuno kind of sets up, you can see like the way that I'm looking at Nottingham Forest anyway. And again, there's not been many games, but maybe like 5 in terms of that I've actually watched of Nottingham Forest, this season. They do like to overload in those kind of wide areas, make it very, very congested, for the teams, for the opposition, should I say, sorry. Because again, once you start doing things like that, and obviously you can kind of see, once you start doing things like that, it allows for many things. So one, obviously gives listen, you're not guaranteed to win the ball back. Anything can happen in these situations. But what you can do in this situation is, if you do win the ball back, you're ready to pounce. And you can see Morgan Gibbs-White is ready there to, to pounce with the ball. If they get the ball, boom, potentially, if he gets himself into space, he can obviously pop it out. If not, that ball can go over to that left-hand side and they're kind of good to go. And again, you then look at, it's that pressing, it's that off the ball work. He is willing to do that off the ball work, pressing from the front behind the striker, whoever that striker is, or on the day. And it's obviously most likely going to be Chris Wood, but he's willing to do that. And I think the aggressiveness, you know, that Nottingham Forest have shown us this season, in my personal opinion, has been fantastic. You know, because the amount of, you know, regains that they've had, you know, this season, the amount of, you know, possession that they've won in these attacking areas, it's been absolutely mad. And I think that also helps them because they play this kind of high octane at times anyway. And the thing is, they can switch between the two. They play at times this kind of high octane kind of football, you know, where it's press, and it's, you know, we at times you may need to man mark, or you may need to build up from the back. And when they build up from the back, it's either a 3 or a 2, you know, with the 2 centre backs, or it's 3, you know, potentially pushing 𝐒𝐷𝐿𝐷 there into that kind of left centre back, you know, kind of role. They might have the 5 in the midfield in the build up. They might have the 4 in the midfield. Like, it's constantly chopping and changing. Obviously, this is just where, you know, football is going at this current moment in time in terms of systems and styles and tactics and etc. But again, Morgan Gibbs-White for me is someone who's very, very pivotal, you know, for that to even work, if I'm being totally honest with you. Not, again, not to diminish any other players or anything like that, but I feel like the work that he's kind of putting, you know, on the pitch, I feel like it's going a real, you know, long way. And you can kind of see, you know, with some of the stats here, you know, that he's kind of got over the last year, I think it is. I think they do it, 365. So yeah, over like the last year, you can see the possession passes into the final third, again, getting that team up quickly. And I feel like that's just where football's heading at this current moment in time. I feel like that's just where we are at, is that teams are seemingly anyway, not everybody, there's still obviously some teams who want to play out from the back, and we see Southampton, you know, Manchester City, they always want to do that, playing out from the back. But sometimes managers well, at this moment in time, to me, it feels like managers are just thinking we just need to get the ball up, you know, a bit quicker, because we unsettle. Most of these teams like to play with a high line. Well, if we can get beyond that, get them into wide areas potentially, and again, congest those wide areas, you can see, you know, what could potentially happen. So yeah, man, I feel like Morgan Gibbs-White, man, have to give him his flowers. I think he's been really good, you know, in my personal opinion, this season. I think he's deserved his England call-up that he got earlier on in the season. I think it was under 𝐒𝐔𝐁𝐒 at the time, and obviously Thomas Tuchel is now in charge. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do, or what he does in terms of, you know, Morgan Gibbs-White. But I would definitely be putting him, you know, into that England setup, because I feel like England can actually use someone who's a bit more direct, you know, in those potential attacking midfield areas, you know. But again, I don't know the way that Tuchel wants to play and stuff like that. I remember Gibbs-White from that under-17 World Cup that England won. Again, this period of time here that I'm looking at, or that you guys can obviously see on your screen, this was the time period that I thought, okay, like, you'd heard a little bit about him, you know, for those who obviously was in touch with like the youth players and stuff like that, heard a little bit about him. It was like, okay, cool, you know what, this guy, let's see what he can do. Do you know what I mean? Of course, obviously still young at this point, but let's see how far he can kind of go. And I feel like he's taking the kind of steps that if you was someone who's getting into football now, these are the kind of steps you probably want to take, you know, to be honest with you. These are the kind of things that you want to be doing in terms of building up your portfolio in order for you to reach this kind of pinnacle at some point in time. Now, whether he stays, whether he goes, I don't really know, to be honest with you, because I don't know how it's going to work with someone like Morgan Gibbs-White. And as I said, he has captained, obviously, the side, the Nottingham Forest team. So he might just look at it like, I've got it made here, if I'm being totally honest with you, you know, especially if Forest keep doing, you know, as well as they have been doing, you know, this season. If they can build upon that, he will obviously be, you know, an important kind of figure, you know, within that. But I just think that everything about him just screams to me, you know what, this might be one of those players that you make, if you leave, and again, I'm not advocating for him to leave, stay, whatever. I don't want to upset any Nottingham Forest fans, but I feel like if he is to leave, it has to be the right move. Otherwise, I feel like your best bet is to kind of just stay. Yeah, and if they can build the team, you know, you add in a bit more quality, because I mean, they've got a really good team anyway. I like the centre backs that they've got. You know, Murillo, Milenkovic, you know, in there. 𝐒𝐷𝐿𝐷, I think it's been fantastic this season. Even Yates in the middle of the park, he can be a bit scruffy, but you need players, you know, like that. Obviously, Morgan Gibbs-White, 𝐒𝐂, you got 𝐒𝐷𝐿𝐷, you got Chris Wood. If you could just improve in certain areas, and I think they got in ENDZ, I think, on loan. So again, just add in a few pieces, a bit more quality. And I think in the summer, I don't know what their PSR and stuff like that is like, but in the summer, if they can just add those pieces, I think they can go again. You know, like I feel like they can totally go again. And when you've got an owner who's willing to put the money into the club, as I said before, you know, we saw with Liverpool, after a while, this kind of football will start to, you know, take a toll on you. So you're going to need to constantly keep kind of refreshing the team. If they can do that, I think they can continue, you know, what they're actually doing at this current moment in time. Even if a Manchester City does go back to being the normal Manchester City that we kind of know, right? I still think that they can go on and do their thing. So it's going to be interesting, of course. But yeah, when it comes to Morgan Gibbs-White, I think this season, I think maybe even just him in general, he might be a little bit underrated as a player. I think people know how good he actually is, but he doesn't get spoken about in the same realms as other midfielders, if I'm being totally honest with you. And to me, I'm like, but why not? You know, why can't he be spoken in that kind of same breath? You know, because he's performing like that. If we're just basing it purely on this season, he is performing that way. And as you guys saw before, in terms of the stats and stuff like that, each year it just seems to be getting better and better and better. Whether it's contributing to goals, whether it's assists and stuff like that, he's contributing, you know, to the team. So listen, man, I have to big him up, and I have to pick up Nottingham Forest and Nuno as well, if I'm being totally honest with you, because as I say, the work that they've kind of put in, you know, to all of this has been really, really good. And I would love to see, you know, Nottingham Forest in the Champions League next season. Big club like that, or historic club, should I say, like a Nottingham Forest. It'd be kind of good to, you know, to see them back in there. But let's wait and see. Let's see how the rest of the season kind of pans out for both Morgan Gibbs-White and Nottingham Forest. But I do think if they are going to end up in a European place, whether that's Champions League or, you know, the Europa League at minimum, I think he's going to play a major part. But let me know your thoughts, man. Let me know your thoughts on Morgan Gibbs-White. You know, Nottingham Forest fans, let me know, man. Like, you know, how has he been for you? How do you guys see him? Like, is he someone you think he's going to leave? Like, do you want to build the team around him, you know, kind of thing? Like, let me know your thoughts, of course, in the comment section, and let me know what you guys think about him. And I'll catch you guys soon. Peace.